Hi everyone, it's Lisa Mears here, and today I'm going to be making 10 cards using Queen & Company's Happy Haunting Shaker Kit. So here's a look at some of the cards that I'll be making. I do want to let you know that all supplies that I use today will be listed in my blog at lisamearsdesigns.com. I will also have up-close pictures of all 10 cards, and any card measurements that I use will be listed in my blog as well. Therefore, if you want to recreate these cards, I make it super easy for you to do so. So this kit is all about Halloween, as you can see from the pictures, and if you like to make Halloween cards just as much as I do, this kit is super fun because it's all about shakers and Halloween. So here's a look at everything that's included in the kit. In the kit you do get this instruction sheet. It shows you everything that's included, and it also shows you all of the dies that are included to make all of these cute Halloween shakers. So it shows you what dies you need to make this adorable witch, and I don't know if witches are adorable, but this one certainly is. And then you have the dies that are included to make the vampire. There's a monster, there is a cat, there's also a die for a witch's hat, which you can include on the cat or on the witch or the monster or any of the elements that you want to include that on. There's also a die that says Happy Halloween. There are some candy pieces, candy corn, lollipop, and there is a pumpkin shaker. So all of these dies, with the exception of the candy corn, have the foam pieces to make shaker elements with. Okay, so moving on, here is the set of dies. You get so many dies. There are 30 steel dies included. When your foam is all gone, you can use these dies to cut out more foam to continue to make shakers, or you can just use these dies to make cards that do not include shakers. And I'm actually going to be making a couple cards in this video using the dies without making shakers with them. So here are the foam pieces. You get 24 foam as well as acetate pieces. They're already pre-cut for you. So all you have to do is punch these out of the foam that they're already in, take out the center, and then you have your foam shape and it's already cut for you. So this rectangle piece, it goes with the Happy Halloween die and it fits perfectly. So there's no cutting foam involved. And by the way, I do want to mention that this is a kit and it's not a subscription. Some people, when they hear the word kit, they think it's a subscription. Anybody can go and purchase this kit. There's no subscription at all whatsoever. So here are the toppings that are included. These are the shaker pieces that you get with your kit. And Queen & Company does sell shaker pieces. If you run out, you can purchase them standalone on their website. Here are the matching acetate pieces. They are the same exact shape as the foam pieces, so again, they're already pre-cut for you. So for example, here is the rectangle piece that goes on top of the rectangle foam shaker piece. You also get a 4x6 stamp set with so many sentiments. For example, pumpkins, sweets, spooks, and treats, Happy Halloween, wishing you a perfect Halloween, hand over the candy and no one gets hurt, hello pumpkin, jack-o'-lantern shining bright, wishing you happy haunting tonight, have a bewitching good time, and haunting ghosts and witches brew, happy Halloween to you, and many, many more. So all kinds of sentiments for all of your Halloween cards. And then you also get this 6x6 paper pad. It is the Happy Haunting paper pad, and it has so many nice, fun Halloween colors and patterns included in this pack. The papers are double-sided. You do get 3 designs of each piece of paper. So I'm just going to quickly go through here. Here is some orange with some pumpkins. There's some fun stripes. There is a green and it says boo all across the page. And then here's a fun pattern with all of the different shaker elements that are included. So you have the witch, you have the monster, the vampire, those are all included on that pattern. You have some stars and some spiders. Here are some bats and some stripes. Here's some other fun shapes. There's some chevron designs. There's some ghosts and some stripes. And then on the reverse is just some orange and white stripes. Now this is an optional purchase, so if you wanted to get the solids pack that matches all of the colors in the paper pad in the kit, you can pick this up on Queen & Company's website. They do have solids of each one of the colors included in that paper pad. There's also on their website, which I don't have here, are the outline dies, so if you wanted to purchase those as well, you can do that as well. So starting with card 1, I am bringing in some of the Queen & Company foundation dies, and any dies that I use in this video will be from Queen & Company, and I will have a link to all of the products that I use in my blog as well as down in the description box in case you are wondering. So I die cut the circle out of the center of that piece of pattern paper, and then I use the large rectangle die again to cut out one of the pieces of the solid orange cardstock, and I'm going to layer this pattern paper directly on the top of the solid orange cardstock. So my intention here is to make it look like there's a night sky in the background. And I have this other piece of purple solid cardstock. It's actually, these solid pieces are from the 6x6 solids paper pad from the Happy Haunting collection from Queen & Company. So that purple paper was die cut with a foundation die, just a skinny rectangle, and then I have this scallop border, which I also die cut that out of some of the pattern paper, and I'm adding that right there to the top of the purple cardstock. And then I have these leaves that I die cut out of some of the black cardstock, and these leaves are part of the Queen & Company Foundation 9 die set, and I'm just tucking them inside the circle. So when I glued that top piece of pattern paper with the circle cut out, I didn't glue all the way to the edge because I knew I wanted to put these leaves inside of there, and if I had glued it all the way to the edge, it would have been hard to tuck those underneath. So I just have a few of these leaves that I'm going to go ahead and insert there, kind of making it look like there is a tree in the background in front of the sky. So next I'm just seeing how far up I need to position that sentiment stamp. So I had die cut the outline of the cat, and I just put it there for placement to see where I need to put my sentiment. I go ahead and stamp down the sentiment that says wishing you a perfect Halloween. And then once it's stamped down, I'm going to take some of this sparkle string. It's white sparkle string from Queen & Company. I'm just going to tie it around the bottom of that card layer and tie it in a bow. And I'm just going to take a glue dot and place it underneath the knot in that bow just to hold it down to the cardstock. And then I'm just going to turn that over. I'm just going to use some double-sided tape just to tape down the string so that I can cut out the middle, just because it will be easier to adhere to a card front without so many layers in the middle. So here is the foam piece for the cat, and I'm going to go ahead and attach it to a piece of black cardstock. The foam is double-sided, so I do take the backing off of the back of the cat, but I do just add some glue as well, just for an extra layer of security for me, and attach it to that black cardstock. And I'm going to go ahead and fill the opening with some of the shaker pieces that are included in the kit. And once I have all of the shaker pieces inside, I will peel back the top backing of that double-sided adhesive foam. Again, I'm going to add some glue. You don't have to do this step. I just like to add some glue just for an extra sense of security for me. I'm going to go ahead and add the acetate piece, and the acetate piece matches the same exact shape of the cat, so you don't need to worry about cutting your acetate because it's already cut in the same shape that you need. And now I'm just going to trim away the background of this black cardstock. Now, if you don't like to do this step and trim away with your scissors the extra cardstock, Queen & Company does sell outline dies that you can die cut in the black cardstock and then just add your foam to the die cut shape, and then you don't have to worry about fussy cutting like I do. So I went ahead and glued down the cat die cut piece to the top of the acetate, and now I'm going to go ahead and work on the eyes. So there is a die for the eyes. I die cut the larger eye out of white, smaller out of black. I'm just putting the black inside of the white, and then I also die cut the whiskers, and I'm going to go ahead and adhere these to the face for my cat. There's also a die for the nose, as well as there's some layering pieces for the ears that you can put in a different color. I put the nose in purple, and then I die cut the top pieces for the ears, but I don't end up gluing them down to the very end because I actually forgot about them. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish putting this card together. You'll see me come back in towards the end and add those pieces for the ears. So I'm going to go ahead and add my cat to the front of this card layer. I decided that I want to put a little bow on the ear of the cat, so I went in my stash and found these little pieces from Queen and Company. There's a green little bow in this piece, so I just add to the ear. I do add the larger circles for the feet. So just glue those down to the bottom of that cat. I do bring in some stars. These are from the Foundation 2 Queen and Company die set, which I die cut out of some darker yellow and lighter yellow. I added some green epoxy dots to the front, and then I'm just going to add this to an A2 size card base. A2 size card base is 4¼ by 5½. And here's where I come back in and just add those little pieces for the ears. Just adds another color, another layer to the cat, and it was pretty easy just to tuck that in under the bow because those pieces are pretty small. So here's a look at my finished card. And moving on to my next card, I am incorporating the Monster Shaker piece. So I'm going to go ahead and attach the foam to this piece of purple paper. This is from the Solids paper from the Happy Haunting collection. I attach it to the purple and then I just fussy cut around. Now, if you didn't want to do that step, you can always purchase the outline dies to die cut that purple paper and then add the foam directly to the purple die cut shape. So I go ahead and add the green and the orange shaker pieces that came with the kit, and then I remove the backing off of the foam, and then I'm going to add the acetate shape that matches the foam shape, and that will secure all of those shaker bits inside. And then I'm going to add glue to the back of the Monster die cut piece and add that directly to the shaker. So I also die cut the feet and the ears. So I'm adding glue to the top of the foot and then attaching it to the back side of the bottom of that monster. So here's glue to the top and then attaching it to the back side of the monster. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the ears, and I'm going to do the same thing by adding glue to the front and attaching it to the back side of the purple cardstock. So next I'm going to go ahead and do the eyes, and it's the same die that I used for the cat. So I have the white larger circles and then the black insides, and I found it easier to add double-sided adhesive to the back of the cardstock before running those dies through your die cut machine. And I did that for all of the black cardstock pieces that are on the face of that monster. Alright, so let's go ahead and start putting this card together. I have the pattern paper that measures 5 3/8 by 4 1/8, and I'm layering that onto some black cardstock that measures 5 1/2 by 4 1/4. I have this die that I went ahead and stamped out the sentiment, "Wishing you Fright Night Fun." I just put it at the bottom of that die, and then I'm adding some banners that are cut out of some orange and some black cardstock, and those banners will layer together and then underneath that scalloped rectangle. I'm going to go ahead and add my monster right to the top of the white scalloped rectangle, and I'm also going to bring in some more of the stars like I did in the previous card, and I die cut them in yellow, and I'm just going to overlap the light one and the darker one. I will add that layer to an A2 size card base, and I will add some epoxy dots to the front of the card. And I added some purple string to the top and tied it in a bow, and that completes my card. For my next card, I have a piece of purple paper that's cut to 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and the black star paper is 4 by 5 1/4, and I just layer those together. I bring in the Foundation 5 die set and I cut another piece of purple cardstock out of this border, and I'm going to go ahead and add that to the front of the card layer. And then I have this die with this scalloped, it's kind of like a scallop rectangle, which I die cut out of pattern paper, and I'm going to add that right to the middle of that purple border. So this card is going to have the witch shaker piece on the front of the card, and I've already die cut all of my pieces for the witch, including the hair and the witch hat, as well as the banner piece with my sentiment. And I'm just placing everything in the center just to see where I need to position everything before I glue it down. So notice that I wanted to see how far up I need to put the actual hair based on where the banner was positioned at the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and start putting this shaker piece together. I did attach the hair first, and then I put the foam piece on top of the hair, and then I did die cut out the circle shape for the face out of green paper, and I kept the inside piece. So this part I'm just putting that inside piece right back into that foam piece, and if you have the outline dies, you most certainly could die cut the circle shape out of the outline die and put the foam on top of the outline, but I don't have the outline dies, so that's why I'm doing it this way. So I added the shaker pieces inside of the foam, and then I peeled back the backing of the foam and added the acetate, and now I'm just adding that circle shape right on top of the acetate just to cover up all of that foam. Now I'm going to go ahead and add the top piece for the hair. I'll also bring in the witch hat. So there are a few accent pieces for that witch hat, which I die cut out of purple, and then green for this little square. I'm just going to layer that right on top of that purple stripe, and then I'll be able to add that hat to the witch. Now I am cutting up some foam. This is actually the inside piece from the circle shape that I used on the card, and I'm just using that inside piece to cut down some foam to add only to the top part of that hat. I'm not adding any foam towards the bottom. The bottom portion of that hat is going to be glued to the hair, and then the top portion of the hat will be adhered to the actual cardstock layer. So that's why I needed to have that foam in the background so that the hat sits flat on that cardstock layer. I went ahead and die cut the eyes, and the eyes, again, the same die with the previous two cards. So I added the black to the center of the white circle. I'm going to add the eyebrows, the nose, and the mouth. And again, with the black pieces that you see there, I did have double-sided adhesive on the back of that cardstock. It was just easier to adhere with the double-sided adhesive on the back. So I am going to use some more of that extra foam piece and add it to the back of the sentiment because I want to have that sentiment raised as well. And then I'm going to add that to the bottom of the card layer, and then I'll add some epoxy dots. Here are some of the green lollies from Queen & Company, and then just some of the purple epoxy dots that I'm going to add to the front of the card. And then I'll add that entire card to an A2 size card base. And I do come back in and add another green lolly and another purple epoxy dot to the right side of that card. And that will complete this card. For my next card, I will be bringing in some of the candy corn shapes, and there are two dies to make the candy corn. You have the die on the right, which is die cut from all of that white cardstock that you see there, and then the die on the left has three pieces to that die, which I die cut the three different colors, the yellow, the orange, and the white to make up the different spots on the candy corn. So here's what it looks like when it's put together, and I die cut 5 of these candy corn shapes. So I'm going to go ahead and start putting my card together. I have this striped paper. It's 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and I'm going to layer that onto the black cardstock, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I also have that orange pumpkin banner, and I die cut that out of a banner from the Foundation 2 die set. And you see the wreath die that's laying there on the table. That is from Queen & Company's Holiday Foundation die set, and I die cut that wreath out of 2 pieces of black cardstock and then 1 piece out of their black fun foam, which is kind of like has a glitter. It has dimension to it, but it also has like a glittery look to the top. It also has double-sided adhesive on the back. I just wanted to give my wreath a layered look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with just the solid black cardstock die cut piece, and I put glue on the back, and I'm going to add that there to the front of the card. And before I add any other layers, I want to make sure that I stamp my sentiment on the inside. If I continue to add layers, the wreath will have too much dimension and it will be hard to get a sentiment on the inside there. So I'm going to go ahead and place this card layer inside my Misti, and I'm going to center up my sentiment. My sentiment says trick or treat, I hope it's sweet, and then I will stamp that right in the center of the wreath. And then I'll go ahead and add the next 2 layers of the wreath, starting with the next solid piece of cardstock that I die cut out. Add glue to the back of that, and then I'll add it to the wreath. And when I add it to the wreath, I'm not going to line it up perfectly. I'm going to offset it. So just making sure that the leaves are not identical to the ones on the bottom, just so that it looks like it has more dimension. And then here is the third piece that I cut out of the fun foam. It did rip when I took it out of my die cut machine, but that's no big deal because I am still going to just add glue to the back. Even though it has double-sided adhesive there on the back, I am just going to add glue just to make sure it stays completely snug to that card. And once I add glue to the back and position it, I don't need to worry about it separating there at the bottom. And then I'm going to add that to the top, again just offsetting it, making sure that the leaves are again in a different position just so that it looks much fuller, which will add more dimension to my wreath. And then I'm going to go ahead and take my 5 candy corn that I die cut and pieced together and just kind of place them around the wreath. And once I have them where I like them, I'll go ahead and glue them down. I also used some of the sunflower yellow rhinestone shapes and added them between each one of the candy corns. I used a black ribbon in my stash and tied it in a bow, and I'm just adding some hot glue to the back of the knot in the bow and then adding that bow to the bottom of the wreath. And then I'll go ahead and add that card layer to the top of an A2 size white card base. And that will complete this card. For my next card, I'm actually using a Queen & Company card sketch, which I'll show here on the screen in just a minute. So I have this purple bat paper, and that's measured at 4 by 5 1/4. I layer that onto some black solid cardstock that's 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And then this other pattern polka dotted paper here was cut with a stitched rectangle die from Queen & Company. And then I have this other shape that was cut out of some solid green. Here's the card sketch so you can kind of see what I'm going off of. So I'm going to layer that green right on top of the card layer. And I'm going to be bringing in the Frankenstein Shaker pieces. So here are some of the dies that I'm going to be using. There's the face, and you have the hair, and then the cape. So I like to lay everything out first before I actually glue it down, just to make sure that I will be positioning it in the right spot on my card, because I don't want his head to be too high. I want it still positioned within that pattern paper. So I'm going to go ahead and glue down the black cape first. And then I'm going to take the foam piece and I'm going to add the foam shape directly to the front of that black cape. But before I actually put it down there, I am going to lay down this purple piece, just rest it on top, because I want to make sure that when I glue it down that the ears are positioned right in the center of the black cape. I don't want them too high, I don't want them too low. So once I know where I want to put the ears, I go ahead and press down on that foam, and then I also added back to the inside of the foam the purple piece that was cut out when I cut out the die for Frankenstein's head. So I add the shaker pieces to the middle, and then I peel back the adhesive top and add the acetate to secure those shaker pieces, and then I add the shape of the head directly on top of the acetate, and then I add the hair. And then here I'm going to work on the eyes and the mouth, and there's this little die that has a small mouth with these little fangs, and I went ahead and put double-sided adhesive tape on the back of that cardstock before running it through my die cut machine to make it easier to adhere to the acetate. So I'm going to go ahead and add the eyes, and then there are some eyebrows that I die cut, and I'm going to add the eyebrows. And then this little piece is for the bow tie, and I die cut that out of some black cardstock and adding it to the bottom of the face. And now for the sentiment, I am going to go ahead and do some embossing with some white embossing powder. I did die cut this banner, and I just put some powder over that cardstock and just put some of the Versamark ink on the stamp and stamp that down. And here is the white embossing powder, so I'll sprinkle that on and then just shake off the excess, and then I will use my heat tool to heat set that. The white embossing powder on the black cardstock just makes that stamp stand out even more. I also use the candy corn dies, and I die cut them and put them together off camera, and I'm going with the whole green, purple, and white theme because those are the only colors in that pattern paper. I didn't want to bring in any other colors, so I made my candy corn purple, green, and white. And then I'm just adding some epoxy dots there, and I'll add that to a white A2 size card base, and that's going to complete this card. So for my next card, I want to just give you the measurements of that black solid cardstock. It's 4¼ by 5½. The rest of the pieces are cut with the Queen & Company foundation dies. So I have a large scallop piece, which I'm attaching to the black cardstock. That is from the Foundation 4 die set. And then I have a smaller scallop that was cut in a solid purple cardstock, and then the rectangle on top, those were cut with the Foundation 10 dies. I'm going to attach the rectangle foam to the center of the yellow pattern paper, and I'm going to add some shaker bits inside. This rectangle piece of foam goes with the Happy Halloween sentiment shaker piece. So here's some more shaker bits. I'm adding some purple, some green, some orange, and then I'm going to go ahead and add the acetate to the top. And I've also die cut the Happy Halloween out of some black cardstock. And I did have double-sided adhesive tape on the back of that cardstock before running it through the die cut machine. And I'm just going to add that directly to the top of the acetate. And then after looking at it, I'm like, no, the black, you just cannot see the words. It's not looking good. So I decided to cut the Happy Halloween die out of orange cardstock. And I decided I'm going to snip away just the words Happy Halloween. So I'm snipping that away from the rectangle, and I'm just going to piece back in just the words. So I'm also going to snip away this little rat image that's there on the right side, and then the little bat image that's on the left of the words. And I'm going to put some glue on the back of the Happy Halloween words because I didn't have double-sided adhesive on the back of this. So here I'm adding just some clear Queen & Company glue, and I'm going to add the words directly to the top of the black words. So the orange words are going on top of the black, but you'll still be able to see the black bat and the black rat there on that sentiment. And I think this looks so much better. So you can actually see these words. It looks better than when I had black on black. So I'm going to go ahead and tie some string here. This is some of the Queen & Company sparkle string in green, and I'm going to add that to below the sentiment. And so I thought it would look cute if I added a witch hat to the top of the sentiment, and I thought using a green witch hat would bring out the green in the string. So I have my green witch hat, and I put the accent pieces on there, and then I'm going to put some foam towards the top of the witch hat just so that it adheres flat to the card, and I'm only going to apply glue towards the bottom so that the bottom part of the witch hat adheres to the sentiment. So now I'm ready to attach this to a card base. So I am going to flip this over. I'm going to put some double-sided tape to hold the string down to the black cardstock, and I'm going to snip out the middle, and then I'll add that to a white A2 size card base. And that completes my card. So here's a final look at the completed card, and moving on to my next card, I will be using another Queen & Company card sketch. So I have a solid piece of green cardstock which I'm layering on these pieces of pattern paper. The orange pumpkin paper is measured 4 by 2 3/4, and then the purple bat paper is 4 by 2½. So I'm layering those onto the green, and then I will layer that directly onto the white A2 size card base. And then I die cut this striped pattern paper from one of the foundation dies, and I'm going to layer it across the center where the orange and the purple pattern papers meet. And I die cut a scalloped rectangle out of the same green color cardstock that I put in the background, and then a white stitched rectangle to layer on top. Now I will be incorporating the lollipop dies that are in the kit, and for the lollipop sticks I die cut this light blue solid paper. And then I have a purple lollipop, which I die cut out of the lollipop die. I am going to insert the circle back in. That purple lollipop will be a flat, non-shaker lollipop, and then the yellow one will have a shaker. So I go ahead and add the foam piece for the yellow lollipop. I'm going to drop the centerpiece right back into the foam. That's what I die cut out with the lollipop die. I did use the yellow pattern paper to die cut out that yellow lollipop as well. So I add the shaker pieces, and then I'm going to add the acetate on top to secure those shaker pieces. And then I will add the yellow top piece for my lollipop to give it a finished look. Next, I'm going to stamp out the sentiment, "Wicked good candy here for little gals and boys." So I just stamped that right underneath the scallop in black ink, and I'm using some of the sparkle string in purple, and I just tied it in a bow. I'm adding a glue dot to the back and then adding it to the lollipop sticks. I add some embellishments, some epoxy dots here to the front of the card, and that will complete this card. So moving on, for my next card, I'm going to also be using a card sketch, but this card sketch is from Mojo Monday. It's sketch 352. It's for a tall and skinny card, and I'm making a mini slimline card. So I have a bunch of card layers here. I'm going to go ahead and put all of the measurements to all of these layers in my blog, so be sure to, if you're trying to duplicate this card, to check out my blog for all of these measurements. Again, that's lisamearsdesigns.com. Okay, so I have the black star paper, which is layered onto some black solid cardstock. I have the purple bat paper, which is layered onto some solid purple cardstock. And then I have the witch, the pumpkin, monster pattern paper, which I layered onto some solid black cardstock. And then I die cut a stitched circle. And the stitched circle is out of just some yellow pattern paper. I wanted it to look like it was a moon in the background. So I thought this, when I saw this card sketch, I thought this would be perfect. So the smaller circle that's shown on the card sketch is going to represent where my cat is. So I'm using the cat in place of the smaller circle. So I'm going to go ahead and glue down the foam piece for the cat. And I did keep the inside piece when I die cut it out of black cardstock, and I just added that inside piece right back into the foam. I'm adding some of the black sprinkles, and I'm going to add the acetate piece right on top to secure all of those shaker bits. And then I will add glue to the back of the black cat shape and add that directly to the top of the acetate. I die cut a scalloped border out of green cardstock, and I'm going to add that underneath the cat just so it has something to sit on. And then I'm going to add the feet to the bottom of the cat. Those were die cut out of the circle die. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the purple for the ears. I'll add the eyes, the nose, and the whiskers. So again, the same process that I did with the first card when I used this cat on the first card. So same exact process. So I am going to add a witch hat to this cat. So the hat I die cut out of black, and then the accent piece is out of purple and green. And I'm going to go ahead and add that to the top of the cat. I'm also bringing in 2 candy corn pieces, and I've already put those together, and I'm layering those up on this small white circle. That white circle I die cut with the lollipop die. It's actually the inside of the lollipop die, and I just layered those candy corn right on that white circle. And I'm going to add that there to the left of the cat. And I'm going to add a sentiment, and the sentiment is "trick or treat. I hope it's sweet." I'm going to add that to the purple portion of that cardstock at the bottom. I think this is turning out so super cute. And then I'm going to add this to a slimline white card base. And the slimline white card base, it measures 3.5 by 6. So to get your slimline card base, just take a piece of cardstock, cut it down to 6 inches by 7 inches, and then score it at 3.5 inches on the 7-inch side. So here's my card next to the card sketch. You can see the circle, and then the cat represents the smaller circle, and then the candy corn represents the flower on the card sketch. So moving on to my next card, I am going to be bringing in 3 candy pieces that I die cut out of purple, green, and blue cardstock. So I have from my card layers a piece of orange paper that's measured at 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. I'm layering on that striped pattern paper that's 4 by 5 1/4. And then I also die cut out a dark gray outline from a die from Queen & Company. And I also die cut this pumpkin pattern paper from another foundation die from Queen & Company. So I'm going to go ahead and layer those on to that card layer, and then I will work on my candy pieces. And my candy pieces, all 3 of them, will be shakers. So I'm going to go ahead and take one of the foam pieces and I'm going to attach that to this blue pattern paper. And once I attach that, I will add my shaker pieces. I'm adding some of the pearls in blue and in some white. These are from my stash. And then I'm going to add the acetate piece directly on top of that to secure those shaker bits. And then I'll take my scissors and I will just cut around it to cut that candy piece out. Now, if you had your outline dies that are an additional purchase from Queen & Company, you can just die cut the outline and attach the foam directly to the outline shape. But I don't have those, so again, I'm just attaching it to the pattern paper and fussy cutting around. So I'm doing each one of the candy pieces using the pattern paper as the background and then adding the shaker pieces inside. And then here I'm just adding the acetate, cutting around, and now I have my 3 shaker pieces. So the only thing left now is to add the tops to these. So the green top will go on the green shaker piece, and then the blue will go on the blue and purple onto the purple. So all of these candy pieces will go in the center of this border on the front of the card. So I'm just going to glue those down, trying to make sure that there's equal space between each one of the candy pieces. I also stamped and fussy cut out a sentiment that says trick or treat. I hope it's sweet. I just did that on white cardstock and I'm just gluing it down to the bottom. I did put some of the sparkle string around the card layer, and then I'm going to attach this card layer to a white A2 size card base. Notice also that I did add some epoxy dots to the top left border and bottom right border of that card front. So here's the finished look at my completed card, and then moving on to my next card, I'm making a full-size slimline card. So this isn't a mini, it's an actual full-size slimline. I did die cut some of the green solid paper out of a border die, and I'm just inking that up to add some dimension to it. And I'm just using a green ink that matches closely with the same color of the cardstock. So the black cardstock measures 3 3/8 by 8 3/8, and then that pattern paper measures 3 1/8 by 6, and then I'm going to add the green border down towards the bottom. And that green paper is also measured to 3 1/8 inches wide. So when both of those pieces are put together on that black cardstock, that paper altogether should measure 3 1/8 by 8 1/4. So I die cut 3 pumpkin shapes. I did the border part in a darker orange and the center part in a lighter orange. There would be some contrast, and to add even more contrast, I'm adding some orange ink to the edges of the border on all of those pumpkins. Now this card is not going to be a shaker, so I did want to just show you that you can use your dies without having them be shaker elements. Now there is a shaker foam piece for the pumpkin, and if you wanted to turn the pumpkin into a shaker, you can definitely do that, but I chose not to for this card. So I stamped out the sentiment on a white banner, and it says Jack-o'-lanterns shining bright, wishing you happy haunting tonight. I went ahead and glued that down first so that I know where I need to start with my first pumpkin, the one there at the bottom, because I wanted it almost resting on that banner piece so it looked like it had something it was sitting on. So I go ahead and add the border portion of that down and then add the inside, and then I go to the middle pumpkin and again just add the border and then add the middle piece inside. And then once that piece is complete, I'll go ahead to the top pumpkin, add the border and add the middle piece inside. Next I'm going to go ahead and add the faces for all of the pumpkins. I did put double-sided adhesive tape on the back of all of these little black pieces just to make them easier to stick down. So I have the mouth, the nose, and the eyes, and I'll add that for all 3. I'll go ahead and add the accent pieces to the witch hat, and then I'll add that witch hat directly to the top of the pumpkin at the top of the card. So I will finish up this card by adding some epoxy dots to the front, and then I'll add this to a Slimline card base. My Slimline card base is measured at 3.5 by 8.5, and to get a Slimline card base, just take a regular piece of white cardstock that measures 8.5 by 11 inches, cut it to 8.5 by 7 inches, and then score it at the 3.5 inch mark on the 7-inch side, and that will give you your card base. So once again, I will have all the card measurements and products used listed in my blog at lisamearsdesigns.com. And here are all of the 10 cards that I made with the Queen & Company Happy Haunting Shaker Kit. So leave me a comment down below and let me know which card was your favorite. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel for more card making inspiration. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and have a great day. Bye-bye.